Phrases like the war on drugs and just say no were popularized in the 1980s, which historians say was kind of the golden age of hard drug usage. And today's pilot, featuring a towering performance by Benedict Cumberbatch, has a lot to say about all of that, as do we, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TV Pilot Reviews here on AfterBuzz TV. As I mentioned at the top, we're covering a very drug-fueled pilot today here on TV Pilot Reviews, and that is Showtimes Patrick Melrose, featuring Benedict Cumberbatch himself. To be clear, guys, before we dive in, this is not an after show. This is solely a pilot review show. So we cover the first episode of television, give you our thoughts on that episode, and cover a new one every week. But of course, before we dive in, my name is Jeff, but I'm surrounded by a group of other brilliant hosts, including Linda Antwi.
Hi guys, Linda Antwi, that's who I am, yes.
And Sam Davidson.
Sam Davidson here, and I'm in the chat if anyone wants to talk about the show.
And DeAnJilo Platt.
What it do?
All right, guys, so this show aired a week and a half ago. 2 episodes have aired so far, but it's going to be a 5-run episode. It's a mini-series. I say we dive into our overall thoughts right now. DeAnJilo, let's start with you on the end.
Okay.
I know you're the freshest watcher.
Yes. So. You know, I learned a lot about drug taking.
Yeah.
You know what? His acting, I've always thought he was a very good actor, and I would agree that that was the best thing about the show. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but right now I'm kind of mixed. I don't know yet.
Yeah. Oh, pass or play?
Oh. Was I intrigued enough to watch another episode? Probably a pass.
Okay, but do you think you're a play for audiences?
Yes.
Okay, pass play.
I'm a pass for myself, and I'm a half play. This
for
is
audiences?
a new one. Yes, I'm a half play for audiences because this is based off of a story some people are familiar with, a nonfiction book, which we'll get into. So for those people, I'm sure it made a lot of sense and it was enjoyable. So I'm a play for those people.
Cool.
I'm a pass play. It was a lot. It was a lot, and I loved the acting, but whoa.
Yeah, I'm also a pass play. I kind of feel like this is a decent show with a very, very strong central performance. I feel like to call it a show almost feels like an exaggeration. To me, really feels almost like a one-man show.
It's like a
really
stream
is.
of
He was in every freaking
consciousness.
scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
a lot of Benedict Cumberbatch doing drugs and not much more. It's funny, if someone were to ask me to summarize the pilot, I would say it's Benedict Cumberbatch doing drugs.
Heroin.
Yeah, I mean, all of the
he
drugs.
does
All the drugs.
Yeah.
And
A
drinking.
lot of heroin, though.
And I have a lot of thoughts as to why the show was structured this way. I mean, it was definitely not a plot-forward show, but I think part of that owes to the fact that the show is kind of trying to recreate the experience of drug usage. And when you're doing drugs, sometimes plot doesn't really exist in your own life. So I kind of think maybe the show is trying to recreate that experience for us.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know if that necessarily makes a strong engine for a television show. So I'm going to say that I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch might win an Emmy for this show, even if the show itself isn't spectacular.
For his acting.
For his acting,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think right now I'm also a pass, but I'm a play for audiences who like character-driven shows.
But it wasn't a character. It was a character. It was performance.
it wasn't
We'll
even
get into
character-driven.
it. It wasn't
That's
character.
true.
You know, he was just like a shell of kind of
Yeah.
a human.
But great acting though. It's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was just him for the over an hour I watched him, and there were like some, minor players that you didn't really get to know much about them. But it was a lot of it was like a one-man show. You're right. That's what
Yeah.
it was.
He
It's
dominated the dialogue even when he was talking to someone else, he dominated the dialogue.
Well, we have the history on the project.
We do, yeah.
I'm assuming. So I'm assuming all of the way it's told is because of the original story and the way it was brought into the world, because it wasn't a fiction novel. It was nonfiction.
It's semi-autobiographical, so they're presented
okay.
as novels, but kind of in the same way that like Sweet Bitter was, or like The Devil Wears Prada
Okay.
is a novel, but loosely based on the experience of the author. And interestingly, this kind of happened because of Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
He was really the main engine behind all of this happening. He was asked like 10 years ago, what are 2 roles that you would die to play before you die? The question was much better phrased than the way I just phrased it.
Is he like 95 years old?
Yeah,
Like,
we just ignore how I said it, but he said Hamlet is one that he hasn't played and he'd love to play, and Patrick Melrose, who is the protagonist of 4 novels, off of which the first episode, which is called Bad News, is based on the first novel, which part of me thought, how is this episode of television based on a novel?
I know.
Because nothing happened.
Yeah, no.
This is the second novel. The
Oh, this is
pilot.
based on the
Yes.
second novel.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bad news.
Even more confusing.
So what
Yeah.
happened to the first novel?
I know.
So the first novel is going to be the second episode.
Interesting.
Why?
Which is, well, I read about it. Do you want me
They
to
might
tell
be
you?
one of. Yeah. Should she?
I think let us know because it.
The
Yeah.
Tell us.
The second, because I haven't seen it, but I read about it. So the second novel is about his childhood.
Okay.
You mean the first novel is about his childhood,
And the
No.
second
episode
episode
is about his childhood.
Exactly. That's
Gotcha,
what I
gotcha,
meant.
gotcha.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
very weird they do that. I don't really see the purpose
No,
of them.
I
I
that.
get it though.
I get it.
You get that.
Because it's about the addiction. That's
Right.
what the show is about. It's about addiction.
Okay, fair
Right?
enough.
So yeah, for those of you guys who haven't seen the show, normally we give a log line here, but the show really is about Benedict Cumberbatch's father passing away and him going to reclaim his ashes. This happens all in the first 5 minutes, and then it's primarily dealing with his crippling addiction to drugs.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say much more, just so you guys know, the further we go into this review, the more spoilers you're going to get. So we've given you our overall thoughts. We've given you the log line. So if you're curious and you don't want to know anything going in, I would tune out now. If not, we're going to get into more specifics. Let's talk a bit more about the development. We have a little bit. It's based on novels. It kind of happened because of Benedict Cumberbatch. Again, it's airing on Showtime. Anything else in terms of development history that you guys are interested in?
I just think it's kind of because we've done a lot of Stars shows recently, I think, and to me, this was so much more of a Stars show
I feel
than
you.
a Showtime show.
What makes you? I agree with you, but I can't necessarily describe why. So.
For me, Showtime is very good at big plots, I think, and maybe that's where they were trying to maybe differ a little bit, like bigger concepts, drama. There's a beginning, middle, and an end, in my opinion, of most of the Showtime shows that I've seen. And Stars, in a way, is more of a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
A lot of the ways their shows are put
Girlfriend
out
Experience.
there. Yeah. So
Sweet Bitter.
exactly. It's kind of just like, what happened? Nothing.
Which I'm still
Okay.
watching.
You're still watching it.
Yes.
We're gonna tease now. You can give us your update on your opinion of Sweet Bitter, but we're gonna wait till the end of the show. What's interesting is there is a whole laundry list of other talent involved in this show, but in the pilot we didn't really get to see them. I mean, this was the Benedict Cumberbatch show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, though. This is a pilot review show, and at the end of the day, though, you know, there weren't a lot of other huge pilots out this week or the last week, and I guess this isn't on networks and miniseries. It could be differed to be called a pilot or not, you know.
I hear you.
It's one of six?
Five.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting is there were times watching this pilot, and again, do you call it that for miniseries? I don't know, where I thought I could see this story being told as a tight 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, why this story now? Why as a 5-hour long miniseries?
And like, why on such hard, heavy drugs? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I know that wasn't it the 80s that it was like super. Everyone was into drugs. Was that the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay, so I get it, but like 2018, it just seems so.
I actually liked the period aspect.
The period aspect was cool, and I mean, you have to be a fan of the book and appreciation of the character for sure. And then I will say, even though we saw an hour of Benedict, I wasn't bored of him per se, because it was interesting to continue to see how he kept dealing with the drugs. But it was just kind of like, okay, what's the point at there a while?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about the what's the point kind of component.
Yeah.
I just like, again, great performance. It's great to see an actor do such strong work, but why this show? Why now? I mean, like, if you look at Vita, gentrification, Latin issues, there's a reason for that show to sort of be on. And I kind of kept watching this thinking, like, why this show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Benedict Cumberbatch wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It could be that, though.
For sure.
Like vanity project a little bit. Not in a negative way, but that's what it might have been. I don't know.
It's funny, not in a negative way, but there was 10% of me that was thinking, did this need to happen?
Well, I thought a lot about Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Did anyone else kind of tap into that a little?
Physical
The
part of
Quaaludes.
it.
Oh yeah, it
drug
was just that
struggles.
one scene,
Yep.
basically the Quaalude.
Well, we always talk about characters and performances. It's kind of our first topic when we dive into our specific coverage. And we can't ignore what I think is an incredible central performance at the heart of this show. How did you guys feel about Sir Cumberbatch as Patrick Melrose?
Loved it. I mean, it to me. I'm not a big Sherlock. I don't. it's a little too slow for me. And some of the stuff he does is a little too slow for me. This was probably my favorite thing I've seen him in, because it was his character was at least fast-paced and a little bit more interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I loved him in Sherlock. I think he's uber talented actor, and I come from this feeling the same way.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I feel like that the characters a little bit to me had similarities, like that elitist kind of neurotic personality character. So I really think he's very talented, and I think that he's an incredible performer. I'm just not sure if, like, why do I care about drugs? If I don't do drugs, like, why do I want to watch you for an hour or so do really hard, like, black tar drugs? Like, what?
I was reading a pretty interesting review from The Guardian that was talking, written from a former addict, who is saying this is the first time he's really seen the experience of addiction portrayed accurately on television. And one thing he was saying is almost always in television and movies, drugs are like a plot point, or they're like a moment for a character to hit rock bottom. But he's like, when you're an addict, the experience of drugs is that it's all the time. It's nonstop. It's the only thing you think about. And to the credit of this pilot, like, that's what this pilot was.
That could be the
Then
point.
they nailed it.
Yeah.
They nailed it.
Exactly. So in that way, like, maybe the show's really doing amazing work. It's just work that I don't necessarily care to relate to.
Yep.
And I'm lucky to not have to relate to that.
true.
But I think that would be like maybe the writer's answer for that question. It's a good article. It's in The Guardian. You guys should check it out. Yeah, I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is fantastic in this role. I feel, it's funny, sometimes he bothers me for no specific reason. You guys know there's always those actors.
Yeah, like Anne Hathaway for everybody.
Yeah. For everybody.
All right.
That's
Like
good.
90% of people.
The Hatha-haters.
She has a lot of people that are like, I don't know why, I just don't like Anne Hathaway. I don't know.
Interesting.
That's normally Benedict Cumberbatch for me, but for some reason he really won me over in this pilot, and I was like, you can't take away how fantastic he is on this show.
It's
Yeah.
almost like they wrote it for him too. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like it brought out all the best of him.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, in a way, it's like, is he trying to make an Emmy reel? Do you know
I
what I
know.
mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like, pick all of your craziest, best moments, but I do think it took away from story.
I agree.
While it was very fun to watch, we're not that interested in watching more. We think he was fantastic, but we're not interested in the show. We're interested in him.
Which is weird. That's a weird thing to say. I really enjoyed your performance, but the show.
I know.
Like, that's such a. You don't usually find that kind of combination.
Yeah, because what is the show even about? Which is what we keep coming back to.
Yeah.
We can enjoy a performance, but if you don't even know what the show is about, and we all talk about, well, you didn't hook me in that first pilot, then why am I invested in it?
Yeah.
You're not going to
Right.
be, because
Yeah.
you don't even know what it's about.
It's
Well-
almost like they hid behind how good of an actor he was.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a lot of polish with maybe not much substance. Substance. Thank you.
There was a point that I thought it was interesting, them talking about his traumatic childhood, even though we didn't get to see much of it. There was something to me that when they explained, or the voiceover, that it was just a person that couldn't get through life in a way and became so reliant on these substances. I somehow understood that because he had been through so much trauma in his life that this was his way to survive, kind of.
Right.
But now he's stuck like that. And I think they could have illustrated that in a more eloquent way, but I understood that and I found it interesting.
It was another cool component is that they didn't demonize him for being a heavy drug user. But I
Right.
think they did that with the foreshadowing to when he was a kid and stuff like that. But it was still like realistic because he was struggling with it. He was in denial about his struggle, like all of those things.
It's empathetic.
Yeah.
I agree. One problem I had, speaking of these flashbacks, is did you think the child version of him looked anything like Benedict Cumberbatch?
At first, I thought it was a random child.
Me too.
Like, who's this random child? What are we doing here? And why do you have red girl slippers on? I know that's totally random, but you know when he was looking,
Maybe
yeah.
it's
That's
not.
what
I don't know.
I was like, wait, what? Who are
Maybe
you?
he's like Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
I think maybe it's a British thing.
Yeah.
That sounds British, like red bedroom
Red
slippers.
boy slippers. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I just feel like when you're casting children to play, like to represent adults, if you're casting for Benedict Cumberbatch, whose defining feature is like his green blue eyes, don't get a brown-eyed child to play this
Right.
actor.
Yeah, cute kid. I'm sure, you know,
Yeah.
you're friends with his parents or whatever.
That's my
but-
thought. I was like, that's the director's son for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk more about the show, but before we dive into that, I do want to talk about something that doesn't involve drug use, and that's our CEO, Maria Menounos. She has an amazing These transitions are just
super
getting
weird
worse and worse.
I was like, Jeff, why didn't you give that to me?
She likes to have fun, but without drugs. And the way that she has fun, one of the ways is through her podcast. But in all seriousness, guys, this podcast is amazing. Conversations with Maria Menounos. If you want to have fun, learn, and grow in all areas of your life, you should check it out. And I want to let you guys know that Conversations with Maria Menounos drops every Friday and is hosted again by our AfterBuzz TV founder. The show features celebrity and influencer interviews along with secrets and tips on how to be better in all aspects of your life, from health and wellness to career, relationships, finances, and more. Let our Maria be the big sister that you never had. Just go to iTunes and subscribe to Conversations with Maria Menounos for free. That's right, guys. It's free. And be sure to rate and comment. And what you do, let Maria know it was the TV Pilot Reviews panel who sent you there.
That's right.
That's right. Conversations with Maria Menounos, podcast edition. Check it out. It's great. I want to talk kind of about the actual way the show was shot, because I think there's a lot to credit about that. But is there anything besides characters and performances that we want to...
You know, Allison Williams, just...
Oh, yeah.
It was... Marnie from Girls isn't my favorite character. However, I do like her.
Yeah.
And I liked the scene. I think I was just excited to see another human,
I know.
specifically a woman. But her character's still annoying, like her character in Girls was a little bit. But I'm interested to see why they brought her in, or this show didn't do much this first episode, so it could have just been something totally random. And we have Allison Williams but I think she did a good job at doing what she normally does well, which is being a little bit condescending but beautiful.
Yes, the straight-laced...
Yeah.
She was good. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think all the ancillary characters didn't really do much in this pilot.
At all.
It's like hard to even point to any of them.
Like the four older gentlemen when they all met.
Yeah.
What was that for?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that way.
Like, maybe are they gonna go through the will? Like, are those and then no, they just had some drinks and start. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I was like, who are you guys and why?
Yeah.
Why do I care what's happening?
Yeah.
It's just funny. I don't feel like there's that much to spoil. Like, even if we were to talk about the plot of the show, it's like he does drugs.
He
I
does
don't
a
know.
lot of drugs.
And his father passed away, you know?
Right.
And he didn't like him very much.
Clearly. Well, I do want to credit this show for something I think it's doing very well, which is through its editing, kind of creating the experience of what it's like to be in a drug-induced state. There's one specific, I think, kind of overlong sequence, but when we see him after shooting up for the first time, kind of monologuing with himself in his bedroom, again, it might have felt like an Emmy Clips reel, but I was compelled by that
was good.
scene.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And are we talking about the scene where he's at that like crack house or whatever?
That's
that
there's
the
also.
too. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what scene you're talking
So
about.
I'm talking about where he was going to get more whatever. I'm
Oh,
just calling
yeah.
it
Before
smack.
he-
I think they're calling it
Yep.
smack.
Oh, and he almost gets stabbed.
No, but he's there, and then by the time he does the drug, he's back at his hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, well, was he really
Oh no!
there?
Well, he was at the crack house. It didn't work out the way he wanted it to, so he called the other guy, like the more expensive guy.
Yeah, but the sequence.
Oh, like how he went from there to the house?
Yeah,
That's a good question. Yeah.
Right, and then he was on the floor, but then I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it
I
tripped
think
me
that's
up.
intentional. Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
trying to. That's what it's probably like.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's impressive that they managed to kind of induce that for the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there was the scene where he was out to lunch or whatever with that lady that I'm really not quite sure who she was. It wasn't Allison Williams.
family
It was
friend.
the
The
family
family
friend.
friend.
And it was the Quaalude scene. I was getting anxious and I'm like, oh God, is he gonna throw up? Am I gonna throw up?
I know.
You know, it made me not feel good. And so I guess that's a testament to kind of what the show's trying to do, to make you
So
feel as though you're in his his
Head.
head.
Yeah.
Like your eyes are his eyes kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was insightful too. That was one little nugget they gave us where it was like he, obviously doesn't want to deal with it. Like the drugs is the only thing that allows him to deal with the trauma that he has. Because she wanted to apologize about whatever she didn't do, and he didn't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe from some of where the show is lacking, the way it's shot and edited, I think is really kind of making up for that. And it's interesting. It feels like a well-written show dialogue-wise, but just a show that does not care to structure a narrative in any way. I mean, Sam, as a TV writer, how did you feel about just like specifically this script?
it didn't really feel like one.
Yeah.
At all. It, and that maybe that's why they slapped on the miniseries thing, and because they realized they were right. I mean, there's books. Well, and also as a writer, the idea of it being based on books, it can be done very well, and it can also really cause some issues with viewers that have not read the books.
And I'm wondering how close it is to the books,
Right.
because we, the other show we just did where
Sweet Bitter.
yeah, it was like exactly this word for word like the book. I wonder how close it was, because I know they have a different writer on it, but
A lot of
curious.
voiceover,
Yeah,
which
a
made
lot
me
of
think
voiceover.
they might have been pulling right from the book.
And I love voiceover. A lot of people don't like it, and they find it a lazy way of writing. I enjoy it.
I think because Benedict Cumberbatch is such a strong actor, I didn't mind the voiceover. I think I came to that realization of I don't mind voiceover if the actor's great.
and that was part of the whole drug-induced thing, right? Because we didn't know if he was having a conversation with someone for real or if that conversation was in his head.
Right.
Yeah. I just think in terms of like a script, I could see cutting 10 pages from this thing. I don't know.
I'm wondering where is it going though? Like, what if we had to imagine what the next episode was going to be? If this is all just about drugs, then
Well, the kid,
5
the fact that
hours?
we know it's going to be about his kid, I mean, his childhood is going to be interesting. I'm hoping that there's a plot push from that.
Yeah, I will say this, that even though this might not be the typical pilot because it's technically a mini series and all of this, you need to hook your audience
Agreed.
with your first hour. I don't care if it's only going to be 5 hours.
Right.
You got to hook us because we're confused, and I don't think any of us are going to go back to it.
Yeah, there's no real reason for me to keep watching.
Unless you love Benedict.
Yeah.
Or unless you hear it's the most amazing thing ever,
Right.
then I'd maybe tune in to see what happens. But you got to hook people from the first one, and that's the point of a pilot.
or if you're into, because remember HBO did Vinyl.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
covered
So-
that last year.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that if you're into that genre and I don't know, like the nitty gritty of like the 80s and that was like the 70s and 60s. If you're into that, then you'll want to watch this because I think it's more about that time and that era.
The tone, the feel.
The feel
Yeah.
than anything else.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think fans of vinyl will like this show. And I wasn't the biggest fan of vinyl, which maybe is
There
why
you
I'm
go.
not the biggest fan of this show. Well, I want to get into some of our other segments, but do you guys have any other thoughts about this pilot? Real quick, guys, we have fans. You guys are tuning in every week, and I'd be especially curious to hear what you guys think of this pilot. I think we're a little mixed, and it can be kind of hard to quantify exactly why we feel the way we do about this pilot. So I'd love to hear some other thoughts. You can comment down below if you're watching the YouTube video, or if you're listening to the podcast on your drive, you guys can tweet at us. We'll give you our Twitters at the end. Also, guys, if you're listening on iTunes, we'd really, really appreciate a rating. We're here every week, and we want to make this show as best as we can. And the more you guys positively rate our show, the more easy it is for people to find the show. So hop on iTunes if you're listening. Give us that 5-star rating. And if you're on the YouTube, hit that thumbs up so we can feel the love from you guys, and comment down below. So I say we go ahead and rate the pilot out of 5. I'm going with a 3 point.
Wow.
What?
I don't.
Let him
Sorry.
finish the number.
Sorry.
3.1.
Excuse me.
What?
A C.
It wasn't horrible.
That's not a C.
That's not a C out of 5.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's a D.
It feels like it is a C.
No, that's
No, it's like a C plus.
yeah, it's like a
Ooh,
C.
math.
I'm
No,
thinking
because a
that's
3 out of
high.
5 is 60%. 62, 62.
Yeah,
6
it
out of
shows how well
10.
I did in math. Okay.
It's a D.
Yeah.
It's a D.
I'll go. If you are you
Oh,
ready?
are you
still
guys waiting for
thinking?
me?
Yeah,
we're waiting for you.
I'm stuck on his rating system all this time. I don't get it. I'm gonna say out of 5 for the pilot.
Yeah.
It's like a 2 for me.
I mean, I was gonna go real dark here.
Dude, go
Do
real
your
dark.
thing. Go dark.
I'm gonna say a 1.8.
Yeah. See?
Okay.
What did
I'm
you
with
give Sweet Bitter last week? Do you remember?
I don't remember what I said, but it wasn't this bad. But it's probably because I'm more interested in that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay. If I had to go give Benedict a score, I'd give him like a 4.8.
Exactly.
But that's not.
Yeah,
That
the
is
that's
not
show.
what you're. That's not what you're
Benedict.
doing.
The show, I would go higher than Sweet Bitter. I think I gave Sweet Bitter like a 1.9, so I'll give this like a 2.1.
I think for me, the reason I scored it in the 3s was because I don't love the show doesn't mean it's not a good show.
There's a chance I'll hate watch this show, as Sam has gave me awareness of that vocabulary.
Yeah,
I
because
think
people
Right.
have said that about me.
I think I'm kind of intrigued to see if they're gonna do something, and like I kind of might watch the next one. I'm not sure.
So one thing that's interesting that I want to ask you guys as we get into sort of our prediction segment is that there's this new phenomena where miniseries are getting second seasons. They kind of test it. They'll call it a miniseries, but like Big Little Lies did this based on a book. The Sinner, based on a book, did the same thing. Could you guys see, if this is a runaway hit, them bringing back a second season of the show?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be because they can't hook, and I don't think our review of this is far off from. We're 4 different people. We have a lot of the same opinions, but I think it's probably pretty on point unless you've read the books.
Yeah.
The show's not horrible though. I don't feel like the same way I felt about like Alone
The
Together
Mayor.
and The Mayor. I'm gonna always reference these shows. I don't feel like this show is just a bad show. I think it's good acting, and then thinking about how they're portraying drugs. That's cool. It's just like maybe they're gonna take longer to show us what the point is.
Yeah, I agree.
But I can't say that this is a bad show.
Yeah, it's not a. You're right. It's not a bad show. Maybe it's just not a show for us.
Yeah.
If you, like I said, I'm repeating myself, but if you're into like that kind of genre, then you might think this is an amazing show.
No.
But if you, like me, just I don't care about drugs and I don't know anything about that lifestyle, so I'm not really interested. But like that writer or the article you read,
Right.
that he said it was accurate. So obviously he cares about it, and he probably reviewed it as it was really great.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap out, I do want to hear, Linda, how is Sweet Bitter?
Sweet Bitter has gotten a lot better, and I loved it from then, and I still love it, and it's really, really accurate, and there's a lot of stuff going on that, if you're with me, you guys are.
But you already liked it. So
I
you're
did,
biased.
but it's just getting better.
It's gotten better. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be curious.
Watch it.
Yeah.
You know what? You're gonna love it. You're like the Pretty Little Liars girl.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
You're gonna
That's
love
why
it.
I liked the first one. I was like, this is stupid, but I like it.
Okay,
I
you
love
need to
it.
watch it because it's right up that alley.
Awesome. Well, again, guys, let us know what you thought of Patrick Melrose. And if you want to let us know what you thought of Sweet Bitter, go back to that video and comment, and we'll check it out. But we're here every Wednesday, guys, at 9 p.m. We're reviewing new pilots every week. If there's a specific pilot that you really want to see reviewed, you can tweet at us. If you guys want to tweet at me, you can do that online, obviously.
Sounded like
It's
someone's
actually,
dad.
he only takes birds that actually fly into his home.
You can use owls. But yeah, you guys can tweet at me on the internet at Jeffrey C. Graham. My name is Jeff. How about the rest of you guys?
I'm also on the internet. Linda is so girly.
You guys can find me, Sam Davidson, SamD43 on Twitter and Instagram, and SamDavidsonEntertainment.com.
And you guys can find me on Instagram at DeAnJilo or on Twitter at DeAnJilo TV.
Thanks as always for tuning in, friends and family, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.